Hi, everyone. I hope you and all your loved ones are doing well and staying healthy right now. Today, I was trying to decide which video I'd like to publish and was waffling between two. One about the challenges of painting while on lockdown, and the other about painting itself. I thought that today would be nice just to focus on the painting, though, just to get a sense of normal and hopefully bring some positivity back into your day. So, I'd like to answer my most frequently asked questions about olive oil painting. I get these questions over and over, so if you've been curious about these, you are not alone, and I hope this can be a helpful resource. Throughout the video, a lot of these questions are actually more thoroughly answered in other videos I have already posted. I still think having them all here is going to be really helpful, but for any of these, if you want a more in-depth answer or explanation, or even to see certain things demonstrated on video, I'm going to be linking to everything in the upper right-hand corner of this video, as well as the description, so you'll be able to visit either one of those links to find more resources on this. So the first question I'm going to speak to is, what do you paint on? So I paint most often on aluminum composite or ACM or MDF panels. ACM is my panel of choice though, as it's just more durable than MDF. So ACM consists of 2 sheets of aluminum sandwiching a plastic core. It's chemically stable, so nothing will affect your paint film over time, and it's also very resistant to dinged corners or warping. On the other hand, I do like buying pre-made panels from Raymar, and right now I can only get the panels I like in MDF rather than ACM. Additionally, another advantage of MDF, beyond just being able to get them pre-made from Raymar, is that it's much lighter weight, so if you travel with your panels, this may be a really good option for you. Now, if I am using ACM that I cut down from a large sheet, I prep individual panels either with a lead alkyd ground from Rublev, or I mount Clausen's C13 or C15 double primed linen onto it. I made a whole video, well actually 2 dedicated videos to this process, so if you'd like to see exactly what all of the tools are and what all of the process looks like, check out those 2 videos that I will link in the upper right hand corner of the video as well as the description. The first video will be about applying a custom gesso or ground to ACM panels if you are really into a custom texture, and the second video is dedicated to mounting pre-primed linen onto ACM panels if you prefer the woven texture. The next question I get asked a lot is, what do I attach panels to my easel with? So for anyone who has joined me on a live stream, you probably know that I use this special system to attach my panels to my Edge Pro Gear paintbook. This easel is unique in that it has magnetic strips all along the top half of the clamshell, which means that you can stick your panels to it magnetically rather than using clamps. But it does require that your panels have some kind of magnetic property, which ACM panels do not. And personally, I cannot stand using clamps. I hate painting around them, and I always make a mess when trying to take panels off the easel. Not to mention, I'm always afraid that I'll drop a finished painting whenever I'm trying to remove it from the clamps. So this magnetic system was a no-brainer for me. So I got the idea actually from the magnetic backs that you get from Edge, but they're super not exactly efficient cost-wise, and they're difficult to reuse. So I actually reverse engineered a version that was cost-effective and reusable. I went down to a local sheet metal fabricator and asked for a lightweight magnetic sheet. I believe I had them cut a sheet that was maybe 3 feet square, and I asked them to break that down into 5-inch squares for me. They have the machinery to do that quickly and easily without bending or warping the sheet metal, and I think it cost me maybe $1 per reusable backing, which means in my mind it was money very well spent. Now, I still have to get these magnetic sheets onto the back of my panel. So I've actually tried several methods and have found something that is really, I think, the best solution. It's remarkably easy, pretty cost effective, holds on very well, and is also very easy to remove without any residue when I want to take it off. I've tried everything from tape to rubber cement, but what works best for me are the small command strips by 3M, the ones that are meant to hold posters on the wall. I stick one on the left and one on the right hand side of the metal sheets, and then I stick that onto the back of the panel, and I'm good to go. I actually demoed this in a recent live stream, so if you'd like to see exactly what that process looks like and exactly what the supports look like, check out the link in the corner of the video and the description. Okay, and next I'm going to move on to the question of what is in my painting palette. So my palette is based on Daniel Key's palette, which in turn is based on Richard Schmidt's palette. This is an evolving thing. So my palette today isn't the same as it was in a video I posted, I think, a year ago. And similarly, Daniel's palette today isn't the same as what it was a year or so ago when I last saw him post the contents of his palette online. So take this as you will, acknowledge that this is going to grow over time and that we are making the best palettes we have with the information available to us. And I think that's probably the best way for you to think about your palette as well. The purpose of my studio palette is to serve as a foundation that I can use to mix just about any color I may need for any projects in the studio. So it's pretty large. I would say it's too large to use if I were plein air painting. The palette is larger than I really need for any individual project I may have in the studio at any given time, but I often rotate between projects in any given workday, so I may use the earth tone portion of my palette for some portrait work, but then change gears to a floral still life where maybe I use all of my super chromatic intense pigments like my cadmiums or my viridian. The palette itself goes from cad lemon all the way to cad red, and then uses permanent rose and permanent magenta instead of alizarin. It has several transparent oxide earth colors, terra rosa, and then goes on to viridian and ultramarine blue deep. And of course, the white on my palette is titanium white. But if you want a full list, I will link to a recent video that goes over my whole palette, including which brands I prefer for each color. Okay, and with the palette out of the way, I'm going to talk about which brushes I use. So I've recently gotten to the point where the only brushes in my main kit are from Rosemary & Company. I still do have brushes from earlier in my career when I used and severely mistreated brushes from Silver, and some brushes that I think are Creative Mark brand or just something that I was able to find at the art supply store. But I've since found that all of my favorite artists whose brushwork I most want to emulate and learn from swear by Rosemary. Furthermore, a lot of their go-to brushes seem to have unique working properties that I thought may unlock better brushwork on my end. It by no means was an easy transition or a quick fix, but the new brushes actually did teach me a whole lot about my habits and forced me to push past them. I recently spoke at length about all of the varieties of brush that I use from Rosemary in a live stream, which again, I will link both in the upper right-hand corner and the description. But when it comes to Rosemary, I opt for their Eclipse Extra Long Combers, the Evergreen Flats, the Series 56 and 77 Sable brushes, and the Master's Choice Flats and Filberts. Size is entirely dependent upon the size of the painting I'm working on, so I don't necessarily have a favorite. I usually just try to opt for the largest size that could possibly get the job done. So the rule of thumb is generally take the brush size that feels the largest that you could comfortably work with and then go up one more size. This teaches you to be a little bit more efficient with your brushwork and can really help you out if you struggle with kind of fussing or getting too tight in your painting. So I have just about every brush size in each one of those lines that I just mentioned, but you'll probably have a feel for what size you need based on other brushes in your collection. And just remember that this does depend mostly, I think, on the size of panel you typically work on. So I have a big 3x4 foot commission I'm working on that uses completely different brushes than an 8x10 commission I'm working on. Another question I get asked a lot is whether my painting is from life. And this, of course, depends, but in short, I try to paint from life whenever possible, but for commissions, I usually work from photos just for the convenience of my sitter. But just because I often work from photos here on YouTube does not mean that I do not long to be painting from life, and I hope that you feel the same way. Finally, this is maybe my most frequently asked question, which is funny because I think I say constantly what this is, but my most frequently asked question is, what varnish is that? So the varnish that I use in every single varnish pour video that I have made is Gamvar Gloss. I made a whole video about it that I will link, but basically I always use Gamvar because I can apply it to my painting much more quickly than any other varnish can because it allows the painting to continue to cure even after it's been applied. Typically, varnish needs to be put on 6 months to 1 year after a painting is completed, but Gamvar can go on within a couple of days to a month, depending on how thick your paint is. And those are my most frequently asked questions. Do you think I missed anything? If so, please let me know in the comments because I would love to answer your question or maybe even speak to it in an upcoming video. As always, I hope this painting has been helpful and maybe was even just able to lift your spirits or give you a sense of normal today. If you'd like to see more of my videos, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything new. And until next time, I hope you stay safe, that your loved ones stay safe, and I wish you very happy painting.